guys, welcome to Cocoa Wednesdays, or welcome back. If you are returning, please like, share, subscribe, comment, support. Cocoa Wednesdays is like my little baby. I do other content, but this is my favorite by far because it is a place for me to share some things that I've went through, share my journey, and to hear back from you guys. And ultimately, the goal is to continue to be a space to grow communities, to talk about ways that we can better each other, learn from the past, learn from things that we've all gone through, and just how do we move forward. So please like, share, subscribe, and comment so we can pour into each other's cups and take whatever we need. You can also find me on Instagram as Coco Kinsey, Facebook as Coco Kinsey, and I now am on Twitter as Coco Kinsey. So I am here and ready to communicate, and let's get started. Last week I talked about kind of just the misconceptions of the Black Panther Party. And I debated on kind of what I wanted to do and going further on how I wanted to kind of present it this week. As it would be, my husband and I were having a conversation, from talking to the kids. So if you have kids, you ask, well, what do you want to be when you grow up? And so my husband looked at me after talking to the kids, and he was like, well, what did you want to be? And it was something that we had never really discussed too much. And he said he wanted to be a teacher and accountant. And I said, I wanted to be a revolutionary, and I did. I wanted to be a person of the community, and I never had like that idea of like a doctor. That is what I wanted to be. And my mom's an artist, and if you've seen any of my other videos, I talk about how my mom really allowed us the space, my brother and I, to be our authentic selves and to have a voice and to use our voice. So at an early age, it was very important for her to teach us history and accurate, true history, the ugly, gritty, true, all of it. So early on, that was kind of already embedded. And one of the first ones that I learned about that meant so much to me was the Black Panther Party. So much, funny story, and then I'll get into kind of just debunking. So in middle school, I wore a Black Panther shirt, the infamous picture of Bobby Seale, armed Bobby Seale and Huey P. Newton with the Black Panther Party behind it. And I was told to take it off by my black teacher. I went to a predominantly black school, and which I was really confused about because it was around the time, it was before Jeezy and the Snowman, but it was like when people were doing SpongeBob, and SpongeBob might be high or SpongeBob might have a gun, and that was allowed. So I certainly, in my heart of hearts, never thought that it would be a problem at all for me to wear my Black Panther Party shirt. And so she told me to take it off because they were a group who hated white people, and it just is not a good look. It can make others feel uncomfortable. And so of course, me and my voice, and if you know me at the time, then you know. And I was like, well, no, that is not true, this and that. And and I went to this whole thing because this was around the time that A$AP Brown got arrested, which is a whole nother conversation for another day, but what he's actually in jail for currently, that he probably shouldn't be in for. But yeah, so I was like, oh, you're treating me like A$AP Brown, like I didn't do anything, it's not fair. And so nonetheless, I got sent down to my assistant principal's office, who is white, and essentially said the same thing. It can make you feel uncomfortable, you need to take it off. And I tried to fight back, but needless to say, I went out of the office with my shirt inside out. But it's so interesting that this was at school. This is at a place where you're supposed to know the truth. And this, as I continued to grow, and I continue, because that inspired me to want to know even more. But like I said last week, and if you go watch last week's episode, you see that the Black Panther Party was so much more, and they were not a hate group, if anything. And this is where I will get into Fred Hampton. Fred Hampton, to me, is my favorite leader, probably out of the Black Panther Party. And not to say that I like a lot of other people, and I know it's easy to say because everybody says dead man's best friend. No, he at 2021 had so much discipline. He was so well spoken. He was, just he was truly a threat to the establishment that act like he was a threat, which I find so interesting. But when you talk about the Black Panther Party or even a Malcolm X, and if you truly want to go in depth on Martin Luther King, then the reason that it's just the little snippets or paragraphs in the history books is because then you would also have to talk about the government itself, and that we would talk about the counterintelligence program, COINTELPRO, led by J. Edgar Hoover. J. Edgar Hoover took down so many great leaders as a protection to America. But protection from what? When we look at the Black Panther Party, they were feeding people up to $20,000 a week. They were doing medical screenings, and so often comments, especially around people of color, are that oh well, they need to stop looking for handouts, stop begging. And there is some truth in that, even, and let me quantify that by saying that a lot of races are far more on welfare than people of color. It's just not discussed. Now, there are a lot of people who take advantage of the system, but there are also so many who do not, who just simply need the help. One of my favorite quotes from Martin Luther King is where he talks about the expectation of a bootless man being expected to pull himself up by his own bootstraps. Well, how can he if he doesn't have the boot? And I just think that's where we were, and that's where we are still in a sense. But these same complaints, when the people did begin to do for their communities and no longer were looking for your handout, your acceptance, they were targeted. And it's just, which one do you want? J. Edgar Hoover would go as far as to, when the Black Panther parties would have their breakfast where they were feeding kids of the community, he would make it his business. He ensured that the FBI and local police departments would go in and arrest a lot of the Panthers for trivial things, just so there would be no people there to serve the food. I mean, it was very calculated. He would go as far as to get psychologists to study what your weaknesses were, to study, your behaviors. And there were certain people that he just couldn't get to because he knew exactly what he's doing. So definitely, I'm going to leave some links below. And I'm not talking about conspiracy theories. I'm talking about in black and white. He knew exactly what he was doing. He messed up marriages. He would say that people were out with prostitutes, and some people were cheating on their wives, and that information would be disclosed. He went as far as asking, like Martin Luther King, to kill himself. He was even so calculated as in to know which leaders would hang themselves with their own rope. Because again, if you have psychologists kind of studying the patterns, the egos, and he played on that. He knew which ones to go to jail, which ones you can kind of mess up their lives, and which ones simply had to be killed. And I'll give examples, because when you look at Malcolm X, when Malcolm was with the Nation, he was a threat in a sense, but he seemed extreme. So you could kind of put him in just, oh, well, people won't believe him because he seems so extreme. So, and that's what they tried to do with the Black Panther Party as well. So when you talk about it, when you see them with the guns, they seem like these dangerous people who are just simply out gun-toting people, ready to kill whites at any moment, or the pigs. And Fred Hampton was starting to debunk that. He was well-spoken. He was willing to defend himself, but he was also working with the community. When he started the Rainbow Coalition, and he started getting like the American Indian movement people together, when he started getting the Chicano Revolutionary parties together, and several other groups, it became like, no, this is too much unification. Now we ask, because the same thing happened, because the Chicano Party Revolution had their own breakfast club, things that they did to serve their communities. But even the Patriots, a white Confederate flag having group. They were all working together because they all had the same goal, as to not to get up from under being oppressed. So even more, as I said last week, even more than racism, so much of the Black Panther Party had to do with capitalism, and how do we stop and get and oppress people above to where that they should be, and not riches, just having the basic needs. And they start doing it for themselves, and that is a threat. Now, why is that a threat? When we look at Malcolm wasn't killed when he was with the nation. He wasn't killed until he really started preaching a message of unity, and he saw what that could do, truly unifying and no longer seeing as extreme, so you couldn't play that against him. Fred Hampton was a threat when we saw the unity that start happening. When Martin started moving with other leaders, there start to be issues. And there are some other ones that have, I could go on and people would say conspiracy theories possibly, but it's disgusting. And we have to be better than that today. We have to be better and learn from it, and don't get played. And I'm not saying don't trust the media. I'm saying make sure you have the right information. You have to be so cautious on the propaganda that you're sold, because it's so dangerous. It's dangerous to just believe the rhetoric that you hear sometimes, and it's dangerous to a people. It's dangerous. I should not have to feel scared for my husband, my sons, growing up in a world when they walk out the door. I shouldn't feel the fear that I have. I should be able to have the confidence that the mothers of the people who went to the insurrection on the Capitol, that they knew for the most part that their babies were going to come back, their men were going to come home. There was not a moment for many that they would be unharmed. Well, that's not the reality of so many of us. We worry about our sons going to the grocery store. I worry about my son being able to ride his bike down the street to the park, and that's not where we should be. So pause, look a little bit further into history, look, see, find out details, find out truth. And so as we move forward, let's not be so quick to judge. Let's get some understanding and see how we can work together. It did work before, in a sense. Now, what I will say, there were so many programs that were started, because what the Black Panther Party did, even though they did disband ultimately at the hands of J. Edgar Hoover's FBI, they held people to accountability, because there was no way that this group of people could have a free breakfast program and our government couldn't provide it to the people. So it called them to have to do something. There was no way that this group of people could have a sickle cell anemia screenings and things for their community, and the government, with all the resources that they have, can't do anything. So it really did push some for accountability, but we got to keep it going. We have to continue the conversations, and we have to continue to do things for ourselves. And we can. And we have to take us a minute to pause and don't get so caught up in ego. And I'm not saying that there's going to be some greater being that's going to come and try to manipulate, but pause and really work together and see why you're working. And it doesn't have to be big, because I know so often, and I'm a person that can get overwhelmed in details and perfection. It can be something simple. Like what I'm doing now is using my voice. Maybe you want to use a platform in this way. Maybe you can go read to school kids at a local school. Maybe you do join with the organization. Maybe it's just something simple as putting things in your car when you see people on the street who need it. Just do it. Be the change that you seek. Just do it, do it, do it. Be encouraged. And once we do that, we can continue the legacies of the Fred Hamptons, of the Black Panther Party, and what they truly wanted to do. Because now we know what they wanted to do, and we know how they were broken down. But we can look past that and say, we won't be played. We know better now, and we're going to do better. We're going to do better so their lives weren't lost in vain. So the trauma that many of them endured will not be in vain. Continue the conversations. Let's talk about it. Comment, please like, share, and subscribe. And if you have something that I encourage you to do in the comments, just put one thing that you do for the community or something that you wanted to do. Let's just encourage each other, send love, spread love, connect, friend somebody if you like their comments, maybe so you can connect more. But let's continue to encourage each other. And I will see you guys next week for a new episode of Cocoa Wednesdays. Peace, love, and many blessings.